Live here.
Live!
But we don't have to necessarily know what that means.
What's the someday of blank?
I don't
there's
know
a
that we
reason
want to-
this story happens now.
Ladies and gentlemen, the movie writes itself. Ooh. Well,
I'm still streaming. How do I stop streaming? No!
hello, hello, hello.
Hello, Benjamin.
Hi, Jake. Good morning. All right, we are coming to you live from Los Angeles and
Camas, Washington.
Camas, Washington.
If you've never been to Camas, it's a lovely little city on the right at the bottom of Washington, right next to Vancouver, Washington, and over the river from Portland, Oregon, and it's very nice.
Yes, very nice. I haven't been there yet, but I will. I will be. I will come.
You will come. You will come.
But here you are. You're joining us at Ben and Jake Write a Movie, our crazy experiment to write our next spec screenplay live in front of all of you.
Yep.
And we're going to be doing things, I think, a little bit different. We've decided to predominantly live stream on YouTube. We'll see how that goes. We will be live streaming on Facebook on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Yes.
Part of the reason is we really want more subscribers to our YouTube channel as a way to kind of just build this wonderful audience. So please, if you like what we're doing here, tell your friends, subscribe to our channel, refer them to our channel. That would be awesome.
Totally. And also one of the things as well that we have discussed is what this will look like after we've done the live streams, and that perhaps we will do these as half an hour segments. And so I think we are on episode 8 today. So we will publish these as 8.1, 8.2, 8.3, and 8.4, depending on how many segments we do, which also leads us on to the idea that we may go longer than an hour.
We may. We decide, yesterday was a really interesting experience. We were in the groove. And I think something that anyone who writes anything or really does any creative activity at all can understand that, like, when the creative juices are flowing, when the sparks are flying, you don't want to stop. You just want to, like, roll with it. And while the hour-long format is cool and we love doing this live, I think there's something really fun about it. We don't want to stop ourselves just for the sake of stopping. So if we're on a roll with an idea, if we're going somewhere, if we haven't finished what we're talking about yet, we're just going to keep going. So you can keep watching live if you want, or you can come back and watch each one of these parts in segments. It also allows people to drop in and drop out. Come say hello, comment, so that we know you're here. And
let us know what you're drinking. Is it a cup of tea?
Let us know what you're drinking.
Nice cup of coffee? Is it a margarita? Like, hey, it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Right?
I mean, not now. It's not. It's 5:03 somewhere.
Yes.
So
we hope that by breaking it up into smaller segments, you guys feel comfortable now dropping in and dropping out of the live stream and don't feel like you have to give up too much of your day. And then you can join us later in our recordings.
Indeed. And also what we're going to be doing at the start of each session, me and Ben were joking around earlier, we're going to be doing a previously on Ben and Jake Write a Movie, just to bring people up to speed who have not seen all the episodes. And if you want to go back and watch the episodes, we really encourage you to do it. You will see us from the ground up breaking this idea live on the interwebs. And if you don't want to do that, if you haven't got time to go and do that, and you just want to see where we're up to now, that's fine too. But of course, for the full experience, it's there. And if this happens to be your first episode and you don't want to go back and do that, we're going to give you a little recap of what we have done over the last 7 hours. Let's be clear, we're only 7 hours. This could be one day's work. If we did it from 9 until 6 with an hour for lunch.
Yeah, writers have a very interesting. Every writer is different in terms of how long they can do the creative process. I will say, breaking story, what we've been doing the last 7 episodes, I think is some of the hardest work.
I do too.
It's the most mentally taxing. Usually when we're in the cracking story stage, I don't think we get a full 8-hour day of just that kind of focus.
I get burnout. I absolutely get burnout.
And we get exhausted. I mean, by the afternoon.
It's important. I think it's important to go away and let your mind rest. And let the day soak into your creative unconscious. And let that come out. And we're going to talk about that in a minute, because I've had an experience of that over the last 24 hours, and I'm going to share that with you all in a minute. Ben doesn't know about.
Well, let's do the previously on.
Wait. I'll do the previously on, and you do the recap. Here we go. Previously on Ben and Jake Write a Movie.
Okay. We came to this with no real clue of what we were going to write, but we knew our brand, we knew our genres that we love, we knew the kind of movie we wanted to our next movie to be. So after working through a bunch of ideas, we did land on one. And it was broadly, what if a demon who wants to be human was given the opportunity, if they were able to bring the Antichrist from a small town in America to the Holy Land? It's broad, but it was a starting place. We started to talk themes of taking control over one's destiny, free will, that kind of stuff. That our protagonist would be both a human who is average, but has the potential to be the bringer of doom, and a demon who has abandoned hell and lives in isolation. Our villains began to evolve and will range from other demons of hell to the celestials of heaven to the police trying to stop them, even biker gangs. And as we've just begun to structure our major beats, the characters have continued to take shape and the plot beats are getting clearer. And that is where we are today in this structuring section.
So, we were having a conversation yesterday about the structure of this movie and what are the major turning points. And we had discussed about at what point do we discover that Sam, our human protagonist, is the Antichrist? And at what point does the demon discover? Is that the same moment? I think that's the same moment. You know,
yeah, probably. Unless the demon decides to withhold it from her, which is possibly really interesting.
That is interesting, and we'll discuss that possibility.
Yeah.
As I sat with the discussion we had yesterday about whether or not that should happen at the darkest moment and whether or not that should happen at the midpoint. I had argued yesterday for that happening at the darkest moment, and you said you felt that it should happen at the midpoint. I'm still feeling today, even though we went, let's put it at the midpoint and see how it feels, that happening at the darkest moment continues to feel instinctually right to me. Okay. And let me discuss why and why I feel this way.
Sure.
So I feel two things. The first is I feel that is an excellent, emotionally devastating moment for both our protagonists.
Okay.
And truly feels like, oh my God, that's crazy. Especially if we've gotten to this point, let's say we arrive in the Holy Land. We've gone through all those trials and tribulations only to discover that I've been bringing her here essentially to die. And holy shit, I'm the Antichrist. Add to that, which would be a plot beat, which I still like, which is she is then captured by the Celestials and taken away. It's like, oh no, at that moment, it has all gone wrong and all comes crumbling down. My concern is that if we put it at the midpoint, that the movie, and it's not to say that movies don't go in different directions, but that goes in such a drastically different direction that I feel like I'm only getting the quote unquote promise of the premise, to quote Save the Cat, but that being that, you know, this is going to be a chase movie whereby I'm bringing this person to this particular place at this point. If that's at the midpoint, I feel like I'm robbing the audience of that premise. I think a little bit, and I had mixed feelings at the time about Mad Max Fury Road. I know that we both did.
Yeah, you know, I still do.
Yeah. And I still, and To some degree, I still do, but it's interesting. I do look on it now strangely and go, oh, actually, it's a really amazing, wonderful movie. Now, obviously, in that particular one, they got there and it wasn't everything that they offered. But how much more robbed would you have been if that had been the midpoint? I'd have been like, then what is even going on now?
What is the midpoint in that movie then?
I don't know what the midpoint is in that movie. I'm not coming to it with that.
Almost feels like that is the midpoint of the movie, because then they have to go all the way back.
I mean, yeah, but that's the last quarter of the movie.
Well, Act 3 is really, really short. I mean, again, all of this in terms of big changes, like the midpoint is, I think, it's a term that we use, but it doesn't have to actually be on page.
No, of course, but it should
of 100 pages.
Sure, but it should roughly be in the middle of the movie.
Turn, right?
Yes, sure,
and it's the biggest.
Sure.
Turn.
I'll also add so the first thing was about, I feel that you get an emotionally devastating moment at a moment where you should feel like, oh no, like really feel, oh no. And the second part comes to this structural idea about where we are geography-wise and where we are with certain antagonists.
Okay.
And it comes down to at what point we get to the Holy Land. I like what we've been discussing, whereby a group of the antagonists are the police. Mm-hmm. And if our story starts in America, I feel like we're only going to get those antagonists for 2.1, unless they hop on a plane and go against their jurisdiction and fly to Israel, which I'm not sure I fully buy logic-wise. So again, it just comes down to structurally, at what point do we want to get
there is jurisdiction for Americans to follow a kidnapping across the ocean. It's not like you lose.
Okay.
Joint operations happen all the time. So
okay, sure. So it's not that might not be that might not be something. But anyway, but really for me, it's the character aspect of, oh no, I cannot. But now I'm not coming to it with going, and I've got another alternative for a midpoint. I'm not.
Right. So that's my biggest. So I hear everything that you're saying, and I don't think, and I'm not going to say that you're wrong in terms of like, yeah, it is a really, really big deal, and certainly could be a darkest moment. And there are multiple options. I mean, I don't believe that the darkest moment has to be literally at, the very last moment of Act 2.
No, I don't think it is. Yeah.
Dark night of the soul, whatever, however you want to describe it, in the middle of 2.2.
Yes. In fact, generally that's where they are. It's in terms of, again, if you're going to go into what certain books say, there is a moment after that darkest moment that's still in Act 2, which is, how are we going to deal with this? I
don't necessarily buy that in terms of the book. My feeling is that's you're kind of bridging into Act 3 at that point, and at the beginning of Act 3 really is the pulling yourself up by the bootstraps and then moving forward towards the climax. But regardless, whether
it's a sequence of events, regardless of not
2.3, it's another emotional turning point. And we've had movies where that emotional turning point has happened at the very end of Act 2, and we've had moments where that has happened just before, or whatever. The things I think that I would want to, if we were going to walk through that and walk down that path of going, okay, so maybe let's say the betrayal, the reveal of the betrayal is our somewhere in the latter half of 2.2 big emotional turn.
Yeah.
There's a few things that become not possible based on our previous conversations, and that's okay, but I just want to walk through those. Number one, our Celestials do not become antagonists until that point. In this version that you're pitching, there'd be no reason for them to. There'd be no logical reason for them to be standing in the way of a person who's doing exactly what they want them to do. So we would never have that additional obstacle of them until essentially the very, very end of the movie, which for me then comes to the villain plot, which really is where my biggest issue would be with this version. Who is our main villain of this movie? And if it were the traitor, if the villain is I'll use Last Crusade as an example, right?
Right.
Which is a great moment of, oh shit, we're working for the bad guys. And that really does happen more in the middle of that movie. It's not really.
Do you think so? When do you discover that? When do you discover
it's before they're even I mean, they're in Germany, they're in the castle, they walk in, whatever that mansion or whatever, and they discover right then and there, oh shit, like he gets captured, right? He's Junior, you brought the diary with you? Oh,
yeah.
Shit. And then they're captured, and then you've got this whole long thing about the two of them tied up with each other. We already know that they're the bad guys. We get a scene with the bad guy where he and the girl.
Now, when you say the bad guy, you mean the person who's given him the job?
Yeah, I mean, I would say in that movie, he is the bad guy. He's the main villain. I can't remember his name, but he's definitely the main villain. And the girl is working for him.
Yes.
You know? Yes. So you get all of that stuff, then they're tied hand in hand, then they cause the fire, then they have to escape, then they have to follow them, then they finally get to the thing, then they have to do all the trials. There is still an enormous amount of the movie that happens. And I don't know time-wise, but just story-wise, there's a lot of movie that happens after that reveal, even though it's a huge reveal and it's oh my gosh, this was a trap all along. So that would be like, I guess, a comp of going earlier, of doing that change earlier in the story of the movie. In terms of, don't go onto the computer looking at what time it actually happens, because I'm still talking. So in terms of the villain, and like whoever we're going up against in the end, in that final end, should feel like our main villain of the movie. So
yes, I agree.
3/4 of the movie has all been this, demon that's potentially after us. Then that's who I feel like the climax should be against. And so if all of a sudden we throw this wrench in, and that wrench has nothing to do with our antagonists, then I don't understand why we're then spending that time at the end. And we had this issue with another movie that we were writing. And the note was, we need to somehow tie in this ending to the twist of this character being the bad guy all along. If you remember, it was this spec that we're actually about to go out. We can't talk about it right now, but there was a version of this where we also had a twist like that. And the note was that it felt like it wasn't connected to the main villain arc, and that we didn't fully, it didn't fully feel right because of where it happened. We were also in that particular movie with that person more. And that's another question, is I go, if our, let's say our celestial Gabriel, just using that name, shows up on page 10 and gives Charlize a job, are we not going to see him again until page 90? And then we're supposed
I would be, and again, I know you're saying don't look at when it happens, but it's funny. I don't remember, and again, I'm happy to be wrong. I don't remember the American guy being in the castle, or at what point or at what minute that's happening. I would just be really intrigued to see.
Sure.
So humor me while I do that for a second.
He 100% is in the castle. During the rain, and he that is the reveal that they were working, that he was working for him all along.
It's Indiana Jones. It's not on Disney Plus. That's crazy.
What?
Yeah. That's interesting.
So sometimes, guys, this is part of our process, is going and talking about other movies and where they
absolutely. Yeah.
But the
And again,
reality is, regardless of what happens in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, this is not Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. The point is that there's an enormous amount of story after that reveal. And so the villain that is the villain that we are ultimately going to defeat in the end, because he is the one who drinks from the grail, and he is the one who dies.
Absolutely.
Has time in the movie. They have space in the movie. We have multiple scenes other than just the recruitment scene in the movie.
Right.
So that would be my concern going through and waiting to introduce them as an antagonistic twist that late into the movie.
Sure.
I think it could, in theory, still happen in 2.2. But it would have to happen early enough, again, to still have at least one set piece or one big scene of some kind where we really have an emotional connection to them being the antagonistic force before we ever go into, they're the ones that we're going to have to defeat in order to achieve our goal. Because the demons up until this point and will have been the only real obstacle, even though the police might be an obstacle. They're certainly they're not the Terminator, you know.
And obviously, you know, in Terminator, after they escape from the police precinct, you don't see them again.
Right.
In that movie, they're not part of it at all until maybe the very, very, very final end when she.
Right.
And even then, probably not. You know, you don't see them again.
No, they die.
Right. Sure.
Yeah. When he attacks the police station.
Yeah. They're all essentially gone.
But, you know,
anyway, to your point, yes, you do see you suddenly realize at the midpoint in Last Crusade that the person who sent us on this mission is we have been working for him, and now he's got the Grail Diary. One could argue that's the darkest moment of that movie.
and it might be, although in that movie they actually have a darkest moment where his dad might die.
When his dad gets shot and he has to go and do the trials.
Thing is, you don't have to, and I think this is really important for any writers watching that are emerging and still learning, is that while there's usually an aspect of a moment, an emotional turn whereby the character is in the, oh my gosh, I'm never going to get out of this, we've lost. It's really a we've lost.
Yeah, moment, that's it. Right? And that's it.
And that moment doesn't have to happen at the same time in every movie. And but it does need to serve the story that we're trying to tell. There can be a darkest moment later that is death related or capture related or a true dark point, you know?
And one could say that in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, using that as a comp, we finally get to the hidden temple. We finally arrive there, and the bad guys are already there, and then they shoot my dad.
And then I'm forced to go in, and if I don't, I mean, really, Act 3, I love Last Crusade. I think it's a brilliant movie. There are aspects of Last Crusade that I like better than Raiders, and we've talked about this. I probably prefer Raiders more, but
there's a better emotional story. There's a better emotional through line in Last Crusade.
The character drama in Last Crusade is actually like
it's richer. And we've often said that in Raiders of the Lost Ark, there's not this enormous character growth.
He doesn't change.
He doesn't change enough. But at the end of Last Crusade, you're like, he's healed this relationship he's had with his dad. It's so satisfying. And yet, what's interesting is like when you watch it, you are going, I feel like I'm watching Raiders of the Lost Ark as well, because it just fits so much into the paradigm of what that movie is too.
Totally. Yeah. So like, you know, in that sense, you know, when they get there and Sean Connery is shot, you still have the entire section of him going through the trials.
And it's
Act 3.
That's Act 3. And honestly, like looking at the moment here, by 1 hour 40, they're in the temple. They've been confronted by the guy who they've realize that they've been working for all along. You've still got, including credits, 25 minutes left of this movie.
Exactly. So that would be my perspective on it. First of all, Thomas, hello. Thank you for popping in between meetings. We love it. Feel free to comment more and
shit on the
chime
floor.
in.
Thomas, where did that go?
So basically, I think that for the sake of this movie and because of the way that we are structuring the movie and because it's the twist is a character that we will have been away from a la Last Crusade for all of 2.1 at least and a good chunk of Act 1 as well. If they're going to remain the main villain and they're going to remain the primary force of antagonism behind our character, we've got to get them back into the story. And
I hear that. I think that's a very valid point. I suppose then ultimately what we're saying is essentially it if we do have that reveal at the midpoint, essentially the promise of the premise, the thematic idea, the idea of this movie is here are two heroes being chased is still the case.
Yeah, I mean the tone is the same. The action of the movie is the same. Yeah. But honestly, like if we're going to talk promise of the premise, the promise of the premise is a supernatural action movie. The promise of the premise is a demon and a human end up becoming friends over a journey whereby they discover that the human is the Antichrist. Like broadly speaking, like that can go in all different directions.
Yeah.
So whether they're being chased by the demons, being chased by the angels, being chased by both, they're still going on the journey of the two of them having to work together, growing, forming a bond, and ultimately trying to stop what both factums are trying to do.
Yeah, factors. Yeah. Yeah, interesting. I just kind of go as well. Again, it's about what is revealed, because maybe demon doesn't. It's about kind of going what. Yeah, what I'm trying to say here. The clearest way of saying it. It comes to about the demon's promise of mortality and soulhood. Does that have to come at the midpoint as well, or can that come elsewhere, somewhere later?
What has to come at the midpoint for me currently in the structure that we're talking about is the angel that gave me this job has been using me to do something that I am not okay with doing.
Right.
And thus I go against those orders, thus causing the angels to have to come after us as well. It draws them into an active role now in the story.
Right.
Now, what information gets Charlize to make that choice to stop her mission and go in the opposite direction to save Sam instead of deliver Sam to the angels? The thing that makes her change her mind? How much information is revealed on that? I think that's still up for debate. But whatever it is, it does need to be big enough to make.
Okay, so that's interesting. So you just said something that kind of sparked it. But again, I'm hearing your point about making sure that the Celestials are, and it's not just the Celestials. It's that, let's just call him Gabriel for the moment because it's just ease.
Sure.
That this Gabriel character then becomes an antagonist.
Yes.
And that the forces that he is associated with, i.e. the other Celestials, are now also after us.
Correct.
I thought you were on our side. Oh no, holy shit, you're not.
Right.
What I was going to suggest, but it doesn't work with that, but maybe it'll spark something, was, and it's just based on what you said, was, does Demon learn? Oh, when we get Sam to Holy Land, we're gonna kill her. And it's, do I immediately go, fine, well, I'm not going to do that then. Rah! And that becomes something else. Or is it, I'm kind of going along, but something nags at me that just doesn't feel right because you're going to die. I don't know. I'm just kind of exploring that for a second.
I mean, something nagging at her isn't going to turn the Celestials against her. Again, unless she makes an active move.
Yeah, that was the point.
She needs to either pull a sword on Gabriel or, you know, like she's literally at the midpoint. She's literally about to hand over Sam, completing her mission, discovers the truth, and goes, fuck this, and car chase. Or some shit like that. You know what I mean? Like, there needs to be an active going against my employer to have my employer now chase after me. You know, it can't just be unless it's a suspicion and we bring her in going, I don't know, or unless the goal is that we're trying to kill her all along and that we find a way to weave that in.
Yeah.
But it's for some reason